that child has a voice that we probably haven't listened to in a very long time. I know I did a lot of child work. My little Robin was really tattered. She was really ignored by me for a very long time. And when I was reintroduced to her, it was a wonderful healing process that took place. For me, how I did the work, I'm very visual, so I got a doll that looked like me when I was a little girl. And every day I spent time with that child. I would be quiet and try to find her voice, visualizing her, seeing her in this doll, and giving her time to express herself. And what that child has to say is profound. It's profound. And a lot of times they're very frightened. And I know for me, my inner child had real issues with abandonment. People always left my life, whether it was in the death experience or just moved on. And that child, every time that would come up in my life, really panicked. And you would see the adult Robin running around in a panic. And what I realized was that in nurturing her and honoring her and listening to her voice, that I got to tell her that Big Robin was never going to leave her, that I loved her, and that together we could never be abandoned because we had each other. And that's a wonderful healing process to begin. And when we hear that child, and that child can be very creative. I mean, it was the great actress in me. I'm sure it's the doctor in you that pushes the envelope and is very creative in your approach to medicine. But when we honor that child and we listen to it and we give them their voice, they have a place inside of us, but then the adult can step in and be running the show of our life.
Well, Robin, that's really interesting. It's really incredibly courageous that you could say that and allow yourself to be vulnerable on television in front of at least 8 million people in this borough. And that's great. But wouldn't you say, to sum it up, that that little child has to feel safe and has to feel loved? Mm-hmm. And no one could make that little child feel safe. And no one can make that child feel loved. So it makes no difference how big your trust fund is, how great your job is, what your title is, and what people around you say. Boy, you did a great job. We hit our goals again. You're so beautiful. Mm-hmm. Oh my, your designer clothes are just wonderful. Your looks are great, and everyone loves you at parties. But if you don't love you, and you don't feel safe with you, meaning that you trust yourself, then you're dead.
Yeah, we disconnect because it's really too painful to be in the world when there is this scream inside of us. You know, life is like the big boogeyman, and we don't realize that it's the child that's terrified. We think that we're terrified.
Right.
We think that it's safe to cut off from those emotions and go about our life in a robotic way, not letting people get too close. And it's, we miss so much. We miss the richness of who all that we are, all that life is. And it's not just, it's a dynamic comparison to talk about the rich and the famous and people who, when we stand back, look like they have fantastic lives. But this is present in all of us.
Absolutely.
All of us have this child.
And it makes no difference what background, what nationality, what socioeconomic class, what country, what language we speak. We all are the same. Mm-hmm. And the thing of it is, we all have these issues that we try to overcome in different ways. I always find it so fascinating is you see the person who has this hard exterior, who's always very pointed with their speech, who's always very in control and stern, has a sternness about them. And many people will say, God, but what a great leader. This person just does so well, and she's so beautiful, but I don't understand why no one's really ever close to her, or why she doesn't have an intimate relationship. And then but so close to her pet.
Yeah.
Well, you know, she really wants to be loved. She can love her pet because her pet will respond to her the way she wants that.
Unconditionally.
Unconditionally.
That's what animals do.
And she can't get that in the outside world because she cannot give that. So you, I guess, attract who and what you are. But the sad point is you can go through life for 20 years, 30 years, and then all of a sudden you may start to realize this, but hopefully you realize in time that you're not disabled and unable to act upon it. And I guess death, the physical death that we experience at the end of our life is no great tragedy. If you can say on the way out the door, well, you know, I came to grips with who I am, and I love myself, and because of that, everything I did in my life, I did out of love.
Well, the process of crossing over is a huge celebration on the other side. It's going home. And you're right. The perspective that we have, even though we are our own dear selves through all reality, the expanded vision that we have of the gift of this life that we had is far more realized when we are reviewing our life. And so when we walk through our life, this wonderful, beautiful, extraordinary schoolroom that we're in, and we don't resonate from the divinity and the spirit of all that we are, it's not a wasted life, but when we get to the other side, it's like, well, yes, I came in to learn this, and I learned it, but God, I could have had more fun along the way.
Right.
Why wasn't it more joyful? Oh, next time when I come back, I'll remember.
Well, everyone misses school after they're out of it. But when they're in it, they're too afraid and fearful to really enjoy it.
Right.
So Earth is Earth school.
Yes.
So when we graduate from Earth school, we're dead. The thing is that Earth school...
Well, we're actually reborn. We're born again.
Right, but that part of our journey is over.
Yeah.
And the thing of it is that no matter what we're doing in life, we should have a passion for it and enjoy it and savor it. Whether it's shoveling snow, making love, doing your homework, or whatever else. Do it the best you can. And that's good enough. Do the best you can at everything you do and savor it and enjoy it.
Yes, and I think the more that we get in touch with our inner child, the inner child in us, that's the one that plays. That's the one that will have the great time shoveling snow. And then you find the time when it's appropriate to say to little Robin or little John or little Beth or little Kathy, well, I'm going into the bedroom now, and you need to stay in the living room.
That's right.
Because we as adults, in the making love process, I'm sure that you have found in an intimate experience, I know that I have, that all of a sudden this adult, that there's something not childlike but childish about how how I'm experiencing them in very intimate moments. That's when the little child gets to leave the room. And we call them in when it's appropriate, and since we're integrated, and then the adult us also can be leaders in our life. And then it's full and rich. And we actually allow people into our life to support who we are, to celebrate who we are and who you are.
You know, I think what most people do with their life is they say, okay, 1, 2, 3, you're on. They put their head down and they go. They charge, they rush. It's like the Wall Streeter. And they try to grab everything they can on the way because they're fearful, because they're afraid they won't have enough. And they're afraid that if they stop for a moment to enjoy the path and to see where they are, someone will get ahead of them.
Right.
So if you take the other idea and say, let's enjoy the journey. And as we're enjoying this journey, let's also do the best we can at everything we do, no matter what it is. Then there's not all this constantly putting ourselves
We
down.
really have to learn to upgrade the conversation. So when we find ourselves in our lives saying, well, I'm not getting noticed, or, well, he's better looking than me, or, well, I want what that person has. That's our child. If we can identify that and hear the language of the child, and we say, okay, well, that's me at 3, or that's me at 7. Well, now I'm 43. All right, I'm lying.
I didn't realize
okay?
you were that old.
I'm lying. But
You're really 43?
No, actually, I'm 42. But you know.
My gosh.
See, that's the little girl in me. Won't say my age. Just she won't say it. She won't say it because really, I feel 17.
But the magic to that is, it has nothing to do with the chronological age. It has to do with the energy.
Yeah.
You could be 14 years old and just miserable.
Yes, like an old person.
Like an old person. Or you could be 60 and one heck of a lot of fun.
I know. My mother, God bless her, she's 90 years old,
Yes.
and the child in her is so alive. I am in such the time that I get to spend with her. I feel so privileged. I'm sure if you haven't noticed, be with the older people in your life because they rediscover that inner child with all the wisdom of the ages that they have, and it's extraordinary to witness and wonderful, and that's what the journey is about for us.
We had a very interesting voiceover in the beginning, which took us through a cemetery. So maybe the next time we decide to feel sorry for ourselves and withdraw and shut down and decide not to make the decision to love and obviously not be able to make the choice, then we should think about the ramifications of this because we're destroying our life. And then the person says, God, where did those last 10 years go? Oh, they went because you weren't living, you were numb.
Yeah.
All you did was work. All you did was eat. All you did was use drugs. All you did was drink. All you did was run. You traveled the world, but couldn't sit down in one spot long enough to get to know yourself or the people around you. And that's why you came home empty. No significant other, no peace, and no tranquility. Now, you're 65 years old and enjoy your later years. Miserable.
Enjoy your later years miserable. Yeah. Well, it's a journey. And by the way, I'm a great fan of Little John. He comes out all the time. I love him.
You know, one thing that's interesting to me, when I have discussions, I have really so many discussions with people all over the place. And they'll say, when you can tell that you're really hooking them, they'll say that, but I'm afraid to do that. Well, I'm more afraid not to do that.
So in summing up what we talked about tonight, if you haven't met your inner child, go to a place where you can be quiet, you're not interrupted by the phone or other people, and listen to the voices inside of you and what they have to say. There's an extraordinary being. There's a little Jane, there's a little Peter, there's a little David, all of you. And get to know that child. Listen to him or her. Love that child and integrate it into your adult being. Life will be richer, more accessible, and you'll certainly be able to be more present in your life. We're so happy you were here, and we'll see you next week when we have an episode called The Inner View.
Got it.
Namaste.